Welcome in, everybody, and welcome back to Pro Football Plus. I have been out for a few weeks studying tape and doing graphics, and so have these guys. But we are so proud to be back in. This is the quarterback six pack. We'll explain more about that in just a minute. But first of all, I want our panel tonight to introduce themselves, and then we will jump right into it. There is about 3 or 4 minutes of introduction. So if you in the audience, you're like, hey, forget that. I want to go right to the quarterbacks. Fast forward for 4 minutes. You won't be missing too much, but I will lay a little bit of foundation. So Austin, man, introduce it.
Hey, I'm Austin. I'm with Box Score Network. I have a podcast of my own called Tricky Takes, and you can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever, and then also on plenty of Box Score stuff on the YouTube at Box Score Network.
Shane.
Shane Ratliff. You can find me here. And as Austin mentioned with the Box Score Network, I've been called to the bullpen a few times this week to fill in for Ben with his busy schedule. So you can catch me on there whenever needed as well.
And Jess.
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm with the In the Flat College Football Podcast as well as the Big Blue Lifers New York Giants podcast. In the Flat, we'd just kind of joined up here with Box Score not too long ago. We're happy to be a part of it, and this is what I've been looking forward to. Getting to talk with more people about college football, and who doesn't love talking quarterbacks?
Yeah, and that's what we're about tonight. All right, so this is the quarterback six pack. We are focused mainly on the 26 NFL draft. Now, there's a lot of overlap between the college football season coming up, which we're excited about. All of us love college football. It's one of the big reasons I wanted to do this. But we're looking a little bit past that into the 26 NFL draft and to six quarterbacks here and what we are looking at right now. So just keep that in mind. Our first goal, I really have two goals tonight. Our first one really is to just get you geared up for the college football season, give you a flavor for what these six quarterbacks do, what their style is, kind of what their strengths and weaknesses are. But our main goal tonight is, and this will be our second goal, is to set a foundation for the 26th draft. All right, we did rankings, but we're going to talk about what we like about these guys from a draft perspective, what we don't like from a draft perspective, and what could really warm us up to one of these guys from a draft perspective if they haven't really stepped up yet. So we'll talk about all of that. That really is our main goal for the night. We've got rankings. We've got rankings from all of these guys, including Peyton Davila, who couldn't be here tonight as well. But these rankings will change. I don't just expect them to. I guarantee the rankings on these quarterbacks will change over the next year. This is just a starting point for us. Some of these quarterbacks won't even be in next year's draft. They'll just not, maybe an injury or not a great year. They'll pull back. They'll play again in college for another season. So I expect these rankings to change. Keep that in mind. The statistics we're going to look at tonight as you go through, all of them are from the 2024 season, except for the starts. I threw career starts in there just so you could get a feel for how many starts these guys have played. Other than that, all the statistics that you see will be pulled from the 24 season. And one more improviso caveat: if you see, and I guarantee there will be a screw up on the stats somewhere, throw it in the comments, whatever. I put on, I don't know, 137 stats. So I guarantee you there's a couple that's not right. And I apologize in advance for that. Here's the list. We've got Haynes King, we'll be doing in a few minutes. John Mateer, of course, Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Allar. I've got LaNorris Sellers and Cade Klubnik will all be getting to tonight. So give me 1 second here. There it is. Garrett Nussmeier, 6'2", 200, 17 career starts. By the way, the starts are a little fuzzy on some of these quarterbacks because sometimes they came in and played a lot during a game they did not technically start. Other times they had a start and they got injured very quickly in the game. So, keep that in mind. 4,000 passing yards last year. Really had a breakout year for Garrett Nussmeier. 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, yards per attempt at 7.8, respectable. Rush yards, not a lot. We'll get into that here in just a second. So that's why you see the negative rush yards. And then down here's our ranks. Jess has him number one. Peyton, number one. I've got him number two. Shane's got him number three. And Austin's got him number one. Jess, let's get started, man. Tell us about Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, so Nussmeier is a rather interesting prospect, in my opinion, in today's game, as he is pretty much a true pocket passer. Uh, I mean, yeah, you see negative 38 rushing yards, including negative 1.1 per game. College is weird in that they take sack yardage and attribute that to the quarterback's rush yards. So a guy like Nussmeier isn't going to be taking off, running, and getting a bunch of yards, but he might have a few carries for 20 something yards, but then have several sacks that total 12 yards. So he only had 8 on the game. College is a little weird. But I think Nussmeier, he is also a little weird in that he hasn't started a ton of games, but he is already 23 years old. Uh, but that being said, he's got a good arm. He's a gunslinger. You see that he threw for over 4,000 yards. He had 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He had 15 total turnovers, so 3 fumbles. And he's going to need to clean that up a bit if he's truly going to take that next step. I think he is in a great position to do that. Last year, LSU didn't have, like they had a good receiving room. I think this year could be really good. They brought in Nick Anderson, one of the biggest wide receiver names in the transfer portal, who had about 800 yards, 10 touchdowns last year. He averaged 21 yards per catch, Anderson. He's going to be one of Garrett Nussmeier's favorite targets this year, I think. This is going to be Chip Kelly's, not Chip Kelly, Jesus, Brian Kelly's best LSU team potentially. And that starts with him. And I think, despite not bringing that mobility that you'll really like to see from quarterbacks these days, I think he's potentially going to put his name in as a number one overall pick candidate. And there's one other guy we're going to be talking about later in terms of quarterbacks who I think could be vying for that number one pick in the 2026 draft. But I think with what we're talking about here, that starts with Nussmeier.
Austin.
Yeah, I'll keep the ball rolling here just on kind of the positivity. He is fantastic at throwing while attacking the line of scrimmage, and I think that hurts his rush yards because he is one of the best at keeping his eyes downfield while attacking the line of scrimmage and then making a throw while moving forward. It's one of those skills that goes really under the radar for a lot of people. It reminds me almost of like Donovan McNabb, who was just fantastic at throwing while attacking the line. Now he can't tuck it and run it like McNabb could, but in just in terms of throwing it while attacking the line, I love. And then the other thing, he has really good arm talent. Like he's got a strong arm. It's not a cannon, but he's got several different slots he can throw from. He can lower that arm angle, like Cam Ward. We saw a lot from him just this past year. But to hit on a few negatives, he fades away a lot because he has such a good arm. He can get away with it in college. I don't see that happening in the league, and he honestly doesn't get away with it as much as you'd hope in college. But yeah, he fades away from pressure instead of stepping into pressure a lot of the times and throwing it. And he gets stuck on one receiver a lot, and it can be very frustrating. But those are some very coachable things. Heading into this last year, he only has 17 career starts. Last year was his first real year as a starting quarterback full time. So I'm expecting those things to kind of get cleaned up. And I agree with you, Jess. He absolutely could be a number one pick candidate.
Shane.
Okay, so it's the two guys, Jess and Austin, went on the positive. I'll go on the negative. Both of them mentioned kind of the reasons why I ranked them a little bit lower. I think the big thing for Nussmeier is, as Jess said, 23. He's a quarterback where you've kind of seen where his strengths lie. I don't see him building on anything in particular. The biggest worry for me is exactly what Austin mentioned. There's a lot of plant off the back foot, kind of rock it, and then you throw it back into the coverage that you've been locked on the whole time. The reason why that really sets off for me is his father's a longtime quarterback coach and offensive coordinator. You'd imagine that that's been drilled in him for a very long time. Never seen that go away from his game. I also, part of it's not his fault. I think Brian Kelly has proven he is not great at helping quarterbacks in any way at all. So it's going to be tough for him. I think the biggest thing for him, though, is being older. his skill set is arm talent. Now, until he gets hurt, arm talent is always going to be a skill set. But I don't see where he's going to pick up to be able to make a move in the draft. I think if this was 5 years ago, he'd be your number one guy going right in. I think now in the NFL, if you don't have at least some athletic talent that you can hang your hat on, even if that's just like, hey, if he gets outside, he'll get you 15. I think it makes it hard for you to be a number one pick as a quarterback right now in the NFL. As a college quarterback, if I'm LSU, there's nobody else in their quarterback room that I'd want more than him. But if you're going for number one pick, he would not be the one that I'd go out and put my GM job on the line for.
All right, good stuff. I even wrote down a couple of notes there. That's why we have you guys on. It's because you're all going to see different things. We didn't compare notes before this show. I wanted to get it live here. I'm going to run through some of my notes, and then we're going to open floor it for anybody who wants to jump back in here on anything that we're putting out here. He's not good to his left. While there are some pretty throws and strong throws to his left, boy, the interceptions and the penalties and the sacks go way up when he rolls to his left. I noticed that a lot. He gets the ball out quick. They have taught him, and all coaches try to do this, but LSU has gotten through to him to get the ball out fast, and he does on most of his plays. He does not hang on to the ball too long and gets the ball out quick. Not super accurate for my liking. He tends to my watching the tape, and I watched every snap of Nussmeier. Throws to a lot of areas, and that's fine because he's got good receivers. He trusts them. He gets the ball where they can catch it. So he usually gave them a chance to catch it, but it's not like he was pinpointing the ball a lot when he was throwing it. I like the aggressiveness. I really love that. He's very aggressive. Jess mentioned him being a gunslinger, so I really like the aggressiveness. And he didn't look comfortable in the red zone to me. He really seems to like it when he's got more space to work with to throw to those receivers. And I'm not saying he can't be successful in the red zone. It just seemed like the closer they got to the red zone and the space tightened, he just didn't seem like he was as comfortable there. Part of that maybe is the mobility too, where he's not necessarily just going to burn you for a touchdown on the ground as well. So that's some of the stuff there. I've warmed up to him a lot over the past year. A year ago, I was like, no way, man, just absolutely no way. So I have really come to like him a whole lot better. And if he shows me a good year, listen, the production is there. You know, you see the 4,000 yards, man. The production is there. So if he has another good year, cuts down on the interceptions a little bit, I'm not turning my head to him when it comes to drafting high and teams that need quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm just not going to do that. But in all honesty, I have two or three guys, and you can see here, I ranked him number 2 on my list currently. I have 2 or 3 other guys whose traits I like better, and I'm hoping they show me enough in 25 to where I get to draft them instead of him. I'm hoping Garrett ends up as the 4th or 5th best quarterback in the 25, 26 draft is what I'm hoping. All right, open floor. Who wants back in here?
I can I'll hop in here. All of these concerns are obviously, more than warranted. He's a guy that sat for I think 3 full years, which is not the norm in college football these days. We are long past the time of guys sitting for year after year waiting for their opportunity. Even a guy like Joe Burrow not too long ago, he sat for a few years until he left, went to LSU, and I think it was actually his second year at LSU. That's when he broke out and became, the guy that was number 1 overall pick worthy. LSU did not have a very strong receiving room, so I think a little bit of it for him was lack of experience and maybe even potentially a little lack of trust in his guys. He really liked going to the tight end Mason Taylor, who I believe is now on the Jets after his past draft. So I think with a bolstered wide receiver room, in another year to really get playing experience. He showed out in games against against teams like Ole Miss, struggled against Bama. I think he's going to be more comfortable this year. I do agree that like Ben, both you and Shane mentioned, that lack of athleticism might hinder him once he gets to the next level, because if he's not able to escape pressure, that's not going to be something that you can't truly hang your hat on it. I believe, Shane, as you said, if you're a GM, is that where you're going to want to go with it? But I think, like Joe Burrow, even though he doesn't have the greatest athleticism in the world, I think that if he takes the next step, which I think we are all kind of looking at this from that optimistic perspective, like if he takes that next step, what do we think that next step is going to be? I think just as a passer, he's going to emerge as one of, if not the best in all of college football.
Austin, Shane, anything else, man?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and say regarding the accuracy, I wrote down consistently excellent at throwing over the middle of the field. You mentioned, when he goes to his left, he struggles, and I don't think his boundary balls or his deep ball is anything to write home about.
Mhm.
But his ability to just throw over the middle of the field, and as you said, to open space and lead guys, I thought he was consistently excellent, and that is very high praise for me. I don't give that out lightly.
Yeah, listen, it's interesting. Two things there from my end, and again, I watch more tape. I'm not a huge Nussmeier guy, in all honesty, but I really warmed up to him. But two things I did see when I was watching the tape, in all honesty, I thought he had the best wide receiver group out of everybody we're talking about tonight because he had Anderson, who's short but super fast as the wide receiver. He had Lacey, who before all the problems and now having passed on, God bless his soul, was actually NFL draft worthy. And then Taylor, who actually did go high in the draft, I thought he had a lot to work with there. Not the best in the country, but I thought it was a good bit. I did notice though he doesn't throw to the middle a lot. While his prettiest throws are to the middle, he tends to stay away if there's a linebacker or safety sitting in the middle. He doesn't usually throw to the middle unless it's just very wide open. He's boundary heavy, probably 80%, 70, 80% of the time, but his prettiest throws are to the middle. When he sees it, he nails it every single time to the middle. By far, he is when he's got it open there and he knows it, by far his prettiest, most accurate throws are dead over the middle every single time. It's like lock, step, boom, touch, done. Shane, anything else here?
Yeah, a couple of things. So I think, like Jess said, you can talk about other quarterbacks that aren't super athletic but throw the ball well. The thing for me with Nussmeier is not only is he not athletic, but I don't see great footwork. Like, you brought up Joe Burrow. Now, Joe Burrow's not going to run for 300 yards, but he's going to be able to duck and dive out of the pocket and get his feet set and throw the ball. I think the point that Austin made about being accurate over the middle is what really sticks out to me. First of all, I agree with Austin, and he is right. And anytime we've talked about quarterbacks, he is hard, especially on location and helping wide receivers get to the ball. The thing I see most out of Nussmeier, and Austin kind of hit it in the beginning, he's a guy that hangs his hat on the arm talent, but the arm talent isn't enough. And you see it when he tries to drive the ball to the outside. Both you, Ben, and Austin mentioned the interceptions, the turnovers, the things like that to the outside. Austin mentioned it. If you're one of those guys that truly believes in your arm talent, sometimes you throw into an interception because you're like, I'm strong enough to get this ball to where I want it to, and you make a wrong read and your arm can't pull through. The other thing when you're talking about like throws to the side, he's in a bad offense for him to attack the middle. They don't want to do that. It's the one thing that's stuck. If you watch LSU from years in the past, as soon as Brian Kelly got there, look at Jaden Daniels' tape. Same thing. They're going to try to attack the outside. They believe they have the faster guys on the field. They try to do that instead of placate to the middle.
They usually do. Yes, they usually have
exactly,
the faster guys up there.
And like I said, the other thing that Jess brought up that's a good point. Like he sat, but the guy he sat behind was Jaden Daniels. I think we can all agree that he's doing okay right now. So you didn't make a wrong decision by sitting. It's the same thing. Like Joe Burrow, he sat at Ohio State, but 3 quarterbacks got drafted in the first round ahead of him. Sometimes you take your nugget and go with what you can on that. The thing for me, like you said, Ben, I don't have any problem with Nussmeier, and if I'm a college coach, I'd love to have him in my quarterback room. But I think you're going to have guys that we're going to talk about later today that fill a need greater and have an extra ability to add to their game. Where I think Nussmeier, he's great at what he does, but he's always only going to be that. And for me, that puts you as like a great clipboard guy. You're not going to be the number one guy that I'm going to believe, is going to lead a team. That's why I ranked him down. I don't think he's great in the locker room. I don't think a bunch of guys at LSU jump around him, and I think that hurts him on my draft board.
We're 14 minutes in on the first quarterback. So Austin, I'm gonna give you final word, and Garrett needed the talking. Okay, no problem there. I think there are more things to talk about with him than some of these other guys, to be honest. So Austin, final word, and then we're gonna move on, man.
Yeah, I'll just give my last nugget I have written down for him. Well, first of all, I want to say I wasn't very high on him coming into the year. I was down on him. Watching the tape, he definitely earned like my respect for the tape. And the last thing I wanted to mention, he has really good hips, I thought. Gets those hips fly around when he's ready to make a throw, and that really helps on like the quick game and the screen game. So that's another just plus for him.
It's mid-May, and I'm geared up for the college football season, man. Bring it on. I'm so ready. All right. Good stuff there on Garrett Nussmeier. We will talk more about these guys as the summer progresses up, and then the season, and then the draft of next year as well. All right. Drew Allar. All right. Who's got assets out the wazoo, but lots of question marks, to say the least. We'll get to Shane first on him here in just a second. Drew Allar, 6'5", 235 from everything I saw on the website. Got 30 starts already, set to make every start this year, so he'll sail past 40 starts if healthy by the end of the year. 3,327 passing yards, but you add 300 rushing yards to that, so he comes up at about 3,600 total yards to Nussmeier's 4,000 is about where he comes in at. 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Yards per attempt a little higher at 8.4. Nobody's number 1 currently, but Jess is number 2, Peyton's number 2, Shane's number 2, and me and Austin both have him at number 4. Before Shane jumps in here, this is one of the guys I'm really hoping bust out this year, because I like a lot of things, but he just hasn't shown me enough yet to really do it, man. So Shane, take it away.
So this is one of the ones, Ben, where I went with my rankings where I think you're going to get drafted. Drew Allar fits a bunch of things. If you're talking about quarterbacks that I want to run my team, Drew Allar is not the guy I'm picking, because, as you said, I think in big games he shrinks. I think he's shown that year and year after. Like you said, he'll end up with over 40 career starts. He's been the best choice for Penn State, but I think he makes mistakes when his team needs him the most. He's had athletes around him. He's had okay offensive lines. I think height, weight, he fits right in the mold what the NFL is looking for. You know, if they have a clipboard, they're going to check right off on that. He hits it when we see him walk through the meat market of the NFL draft combine. But I worry about him in the huddle, deciphering offenses. They even opened up the offense to make it easier for him this year with Andy Konechny, and even when that happened, they still took the ball out of his hands more often than they gave it to him in big situations. We have some other quarterbacks on here that I don't think will make great pros, but in college, when asked upon, they win games for their teams. I think his weaknesses, he's one of those guys I think that depends more on his athleticism, and it gets him in trouble because he thinks he can make more happen than sometimes just looking for the other short thing. The other thing for me, and I'd be interested to see if Austin hit on this, he mentioned Nussmeier with the hips. Allar, when I see him, that's the biggest worry I have. For a guy that's athletic, I don't see it when it comes to having to throw the ball. There's a lot of stuff that shows up that's, maybe it's nitpicky, but if I'm an NFL team and I've had a couple years to look at him, it's going to come up when this draft season starts.
All right, Jess, take it away.
I think Allar, he's started for 2 seasons, and I think over the course of each season, he's gotten better. And, you see that even reflected in the stats, particularly that completion percentage. His accuracy got better last year. I do think his decision-making got better. I think that Penn State, I think, the best team we've seen from Penn State in a few years. Particularly with a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball. And then you also had, Tyler Warren, who I think most people had as tight end 1 in the draft process. I certainly did. But their wide receivers were not good. The wide receivers did not have a single reception in that last game they played in the playoffs. I think it was against Notre Dame. They did not record a single reception. It was all running backs, all tight ends. And Allar is a guy that I think everybody's going to love with that massive frame, the cannon of an arm. And there are certainly things that I think he needs to work on, particularly in those late game situations, not getting rattled as easily. I think that's a big one. But is that more on him, or is that just, we see it every year, regardless of who's at quarterback with these James Franklin teams in Penn State. Are you going to, as we say in the flat, are you going to pull a Penn State, go about 10-2, barely make the playoffs, or be on the outside looking in, you lose the biggest games of the year? because that's what Penn State has done for the past like 5, 6, 7, 8 years now. I think Aller is another guy that he just needs to take that one step. And I think if he does, everybody's going to fall in love with him. I think there are plenty of things to critique. Again, for me, it is in particular how seemingly tight he gets in these late game situations. You cannot be crumbling under the pressure if you're going to be an NFL quarterback. And but I think he has definitely all of the tools, more so than Nussmeier, with that size, that frame, that athleticism, that cannon for an arm. But I do need to see him take those steps. I'm confident in his ability to, but I need to see it.
Yeah, Jess, good stuff. And I agree on this particular wide receiver group that Aller had. I thought this was maybe the worst wide receiver group once you take out the tight end, the worst receiving group out of the quarterbacks we're talking about tonight. The receivers he's got look not particularly fast and not particularly tall, and they didn't create separation, and he didn't seem to trust them at the boundary, and he didn't seem to trust them downfield on average, a few plays aside. Austin, take it away, man.
Welcome back, Byron Leftwich. Welcome back to the league, Byron Leftwich. Yeah, that's all I wrote. If you want my opinion on Drew Aller, just go read Byron Leftwich's like draft profile from whatever 2005, whenever that was. Yeah, he's Byron Leftwich through and through. Clunky throwing motion, cannon of an arm, tries to use his big frame in ways that he shouldn't. Like very stiff, as Shane said. But I mean, just looking at him, you're like, wow, that could be the guy, and that's why Byron Leftwich got drafted seventh overall, and it's probably why Drew Aller will also get drafted in the first round.
Okay, Austin, you set the bar here. That's the quote of the night so far. I want to see if anybody else can beat it. Okay, but that was a good one. All right, thank you very much, Austin. Okay, so real quick, my notes, and then we'll open up the floor on Aller, who I don't think needs quite as much talking as Nussmeier did. But still, we'll open up the floor and get anybody's rebound thoughts that you want to put out there. Love the height, okay? Love the height, the mobility, and the arm. Check, check, check. Right? If you were to put him in put guys in a factory, they would come out looking like this, right? But the production just isn't there the way I would like to see it. The big game performance isn't there. You look at the playoffs and Ohio State, it's just not there. I mean, it's not there in a serious way. So I need to see him step it up this year again, take that next step, as Jess mentioned here. And then just a couple of notes here. He really loves working the middle of the field. Part of that was the tight end thing, but even his receivers, boy, he tended to really like working the middle of the field. Of course, he can see it so much better than some other guys can because he's 6'5". He's got a real strong arm, as y'all have already mentioned. Strength is not a problem. He can throw the ball as far as he needs to, but mixed results on the deep ball. Part of that was accuracy. Part of that just seemed to be the guys not getting open. Looks confused sometimes. There are times where even, if his guys are covered, it's like he's not sure what to do at that point. So, it just looks confused. Part of that may just be he still strikes me as a young guy. I know he's got 30 starts here, but he still looks and acts young to me. I don't know if he's hanging out with the girls too much or what, but he just doesn't seem like he's kind of matured yet, to be honest, And then the last note I got here on him, need more fight out of him, all right? I just need more dog coming out of him. I need him to just step up and just find a way to get it done sometimes. It may not be pretty, but boy, some of these other guys, Nussmeier's stepping up and producing. We're going to get to Klubnik here in a second. He's stepping up and producing. I need Aller to step it up and show me some dog here. Really is what I need to see out of Drew. I don't know if that's more time in the film room for him or if that's just him needing to wake the heck up and really, kind of man up here. I don't know, but I just need to see more out of him from that standpoint. And, if he takes that next step, boy, the sky's the limit, right? But I just haven't seen it yet in a way that makes me happy. All right, open floor. Who wants in? Everybody done on Aller?
I'll jump back in and just say a few more things. I think his mobility is a little overrated, if I'm being honest. Uh, he's not really, to me, the athleticism doesn't jump off the page. I think a lot of people write home about like, oh, this guy's an athlete. He's a big build, and he's really not. Like, I don't think if he were to run a 40, I would be shocked if he ran like a 4.8.
Jeez. That I'm so sorry, guys. I was pulling up my notes and I was reading through some stuff on some of the points that you guys were making there, and all of a sudden, a ad just popped up there, and I was like, "Where is that coming from?" I am so sorry.
Just next time, can you just make it some Ric Flair music at least, so we have a
I
grand
will
entrance for
try. I
somebody?
don't, the Hyundai Tucson ads, I don't think are the most engaging background noise, but I next time I will request that from these random ads popping up.
Yeah.
It works
Austin.
though. Drew Aller is a Hyundai Tucson. He's not a Mercedes.
Yeah.
He's not a BMW. Like Austin said, I just to
I
kind of
see the
piggyback on
potential in the Hyundai Tucson,
exactly. Yeah, your
but
family
will it reach it?
in there, but they're also not going to get looked at like they're going fabulous either. Like Austin said, I think he's one of he's one of those guys where you go like, oh, he's so big, he's so athletic. But when you watch the tape, I don't see any time where his athleticism helps him at all. And if he was super athletic, like some people claim, I'm not taking Ty Warren to play quarterback for me in the red zone every single time. You would have given Drew Aller the chance because I could have given the ball to Ty Warren those opportunities. If I have no wide receivers and I try to mix it around, that's where I worry about that. I think, like Austin said, and as much of a kind of a joke as it is, he's right. It is Byron Leftwich. It's those guys that he'll take a hit, he'll distribute the ball, but is he going to take you to that next level? I don't know. And I think the big thing that you see in quarterback talent when you're talking about it doesn't have great wide receivers. Great quarterbacks will throw terrible guys open. And for a guy that they talk about arm strength, I don't see him throwing a lot of guys open out there.
Yeah, Austin makes a good point there, and I'm gonna jump on it. Then I'll give Austin the final word. We'll run into Klubnik here. But the athleticism. I want to be clear when I say I like his mobility. I do like it, but it's because he's 6'5" and he can move around the pocket and pick up a first down. But you're 100% right. He is not going to beat you with his legs or his speed or his anything like some other guys we're going to talk about here in a few seconds who definitely can hurt you badly with their legs and athleticism. Allar cannot do that. I just like his mobility for a big guy that he can at least navigate in and out of the pocket. Austin, final word, man.
No, I don't want to ruin the segue. You had a good one.
All right, thank you, thank you. All right, let's do it. Next quarterback for the night, Cade Klubnik. Jess has him number 3. Peyton's got him number 7. Shane's got him number 7. Austin's got him number 2. And I have him number 1. I just like him that good so far. Didn't think I would, and I'm hoping 2 other guys pass him. But so far, when I turn on the video, I like Cade Klubnik. So we'll get into that in just a second. He's 6'2". He's 210 pounds. So decent height, but not as tall as some of these other guys we're talking about. 29 career starts. Got over 3,600 passing yards last year. You combine that with the 463 rushing yards, which we'll get into in a second. He's at about 4,100 total yards compared to, say, Nussmeier's 4,000 yards. 36 touchdowns to 6 INTs there for Clemson last year. The yards per attempt a little bit lower at 7.5, and then we'll get to the rushing yards here in a second. I've got Austin first this time.
So yeah, I mean, talking about guys who can run, to me, Cade Klubnik, a serious weapon on the ground. He's a fearless runner, and that's something that needs to kind of be drilled out of him by the time he gets to the league, because he is a little too fearless, like that, sort of Jackson Dart kind of from this year's draft. But he has legit speed, and can be a weapon on the ground. I like his play extension. He does a good mix of going and getting the first down with his legs versus keeping his eyes up and making a throw. He's not elite at throwing on the move, but I like that he does keep his eyes open and tries to. In the pocket, I think he feels pressure really well off the edges, but not well up the middle. So that's something that worries me. It's sort of like something that like Sam Darnold has plagued him through his career, just doesn't feel pressure up the middle very well. But that's something that hopefully can be worked on. His throwing mechanics, he has a very fluid, quick release that I do love, but he occasionally short arms the ball. Like on his release, his follow through is kind of short arm, gator arms it, whatever you want to call it. And I don't love that because it does make the ball flutter sometimes. but he's at his best when he rips the ball. When he uses that quick release and just rips it as hard as he can, he throws a really nice tight spiral with accuracy. And then one other thing that I have a sort of a gripe with him is he uses the wrong club sometimes. And what I mean by that is when I talk about when you're making a throw, you have to kind of choose a club like it's like you're golfing. You don't always want to bring the driver out. Sometimes you got to take your medicine and use an iron off the tee. And I feel like that's something he does often, but at the wrong times. Like he just grabs the wrong club out of the bag and throws some weird ball with touch when it needs zip or vice versa. Um, but I do like I have him as my number two guy here. I think everything that I have sort of gripes with, I think are very coachable things, and I see a lot of pluses in his game.
Shane.
So on a lot of this, I agree with Austin. The reason why I ranked him down is I think this is a guy that gets hampered by his coaching staff. He'd have more yards if he was at another school. I don't knock him for picking Clemson. I think it fits his mentality, as you kind of talked about. This is a guy I don't question his heart. He will take a hit. He has driven Clemson, not great Clemson teams, to wins. Austin talked about the Gator arm. The thing I see from him, and this was something that he was when he first committed to Clemson, he was going to play both baseball and football. He's a middle infielder, like Austin said. His problem is that when he gets time to clutch, he's going to throw the ball bad. When he's turning two, he's going to rocket the ball. Just like Austin said, it's a club choice. When he gets in trouble is when he doesn't have the set pattern. I worry about how fast he picks up offensively, but I think a lot of that does have to do with how his offense is. And Clemson routinely hires former starting quarterbacks of theirs to be their offensive coordinators and then questions why they run the same offense year and year again. The thing for him, I think the team loves him and will fight for him. And when you're talking about college quarterbacks, for a college team, he's number two on my list. As I'd love to have him be my starting quarterback, but I think when you get into the NFL, the things that Austin has already mentioned are going to be the things that they go against, especially feeling it up the middle. And Austin definitely got a chance to see Sam Darnold this year, and that's been a knock on him before, and I agree with that. The pressure up the middle really is crazy. I think some of that time, athletic quarterbacks often that internal pressure is where the problem happens because they automatically go to be an athlete. Get me out of here. I'm going to make something happen. And I think sometimes he flutters too quickly to make the decision to get to the outside, where the outside pressure forces him to step up and then drive the ball.
Yeah, it's a good note about the pressure up the middle because I did not watch every snap on Cade. I didn't even pick up on that. So it's good job from Austin. Jess, take it away, man.
Yeah, I have to agree with a lot of what Shane and Austin said. He's had issues operating under not just any pressure, but that fast up the middle kind of like immediate pressure. Because then, as Shane said, he just immediately goes into athlete mode and he's going to try and make a play. He's going to force something that maybe isn't there. And he's also struggled a bit with moving off of his first read. That being said, he is one of the best deep balls of any quarterback in college football last year. He had the third most completions of 20 plus air yards. So not just, an 8 yard pass that then turns into 20 yards with no, the ball's travel 20 yards down the field and he had a lot of completions that way. And he went into this past season with a lot of question marks because he did not look good in his earlier snaps. And he kind of came in, showed everybody wrong. I think what's going to be good for him, at least in terms of immediate development, maybe not the best for Clemson's offense, but they are retaining the offensive coordinator. So he's going to be in the same system. So he's going to have more time to learn and adapt. They're going to have some decent weapons. This is going to be a very good Clemson team this upcoming year. And I just think he has the tools and he's been able to put it together. I mean, we really saw that last year. And overall, he's got good mechanics. He's faced good competition, maybe not the most elite with how the ACC is kind of what it's turned into, but it hasn't been bad competition. And he does have like some of these natural gifts that showed why he was a five-star recruit, why he was one of, if not the top recruits coming out of his class. And I think that he has shown the ability to, kind of take the next step. And if he can take another step, he's going to be great. He's got the tools. He's in a good system. He's got the right coaches around him. And I think Cade Klubnik is going to be great this year.
Okay, my turn. I love Cade Klubnik. I love the tape. Now, there are things that bother me, and to be honest, I'm hoping that he's like the third best quarterback in next year's draft. I'm hoping Allar and maybe Arch Manning just blow it up and have huge years, and they're 1 and 2, while Klubnik's 3 and Nussmeier's 4. Because there are things when you look at the attributes that do bother me. But I absolutely love what I saw out of Klubnik last year. He is unbelievably aggressive. Goodness gracious, there is not a bit of fear in this guy's body in terms of throwing the football to anywhere on the field or in terms of running it. Austin mentioned the running. This guy can legitimately break 50 and 60-yard touchdowns with his legs. All right. He can just legitimately do it, not just any time, but he has done it several times. He can legit beat you with his legs, and the ACC cornerbacks aren't catching up to him. If he gets a half step, he's gone. So he can flat out beat you with his legs. You don't want him doing that every play, running the football every play. But boy, he can break one deep with just his legs. I love his deep ball. I forget who mentioned that, but I actually saw this a lot. I love how well he throws the deep ball. Now, to be clear, he's not overthrowing people. It's not that his arm is so strong that he can just rocket it, past everybody. But when he's throwing a deep ball, he hits these guys. He gives them a chance, and it's fairly accurate down there. Usually, it's right where they can't catch the ball. Really, really, really love his deep ball. Love how well. As a matter of fact, there's nobody I've watched out of all the guys this year in college football that throw a better deep ball in 24. So we'll see if that holds up next year. Over the middle, not as good, and maybe that's because he's 6'2" instead of 6'5". But over the middle, I noticed a lot more less accurate. Maybe that's club choice, like Austin mentioned, but he's a lot less accurate over the middle. Say at 15 yards, you'll see him overthrow guys at 15 yards or throw behind guys at 15 yards. Also saw a lot more batted balls at 15 yards than I saw out of some of the other quarterbacks. And again, that could be a height thing. When you're at 6'5", 6'6", and you're throwing kind of downhill off a mound, as it were, and when you're 6'2", and you're kind of trying to throw over an O-line that's taller than you, that could be part of the thing. I love his aggressiveness. I love the zip he has on the ball. He's got a lot of zip on every throw. Not all the guys have that. He's got it. So I love that. But again, you get back to the height there. That can be a thing. And you get back to club choice, like Austin mentioned, that can be a thing. I really like the tape on him, but I'm hoping a couple of guys pass him this year. All right, open floor. Let's try to make it a quick open floor here, not a long one, but everybody take one more shot at it.
I wanted to mention he had a fantastic receiver room. I think Antonio Williams and Bryant Wesco Jr. specifically
Yep.
are fantastic. And Bryant Wesco Jr. is a freshman, by the way, or was a freshman. And then TJ Moore, also a freshman last year, very promising. I think he could have a monster year this year, partially due to the receivers he has around him.
Yeah, totally agree. 1,000%.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of work off of what you, Ben, and Austin, you said about the club choice. I think right now he's struggling. Like his main struggle is that, and it's kind of something we saw a lot with Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers didn't have a repertoire, like a deep pitching repertoire. Like he couldn't throw a curveball and then go to the fastball, then go to the slider when the situation called for it. It was something that really hindered Texas's offense at times. But Klubnik is only 21. So like Austin said, it is something that can be coached out of him. And for his sake, I really hope he does, because that is, I think, the next step and possibly the final step to really solidify him as one of the top dogs in the upcoming draft. Because I do think that, while again I don't think he's played poor competition, I think teams are gonna, come draft time, they're gonna see, like, yeah, he's more athletic than a guy like Nussmeier. But Nussmeier was going up against the SEC, and that's maybe where some of these struggles were. Klubnik was playing against the ACC, not quite as, and he had these struggles. So I just think some of that SEC versus ACC kind of bias could play into his potential draft stock, if he doesn't work on these issues. But like Austin said, these are things that can be coached. and I do think Clemson has a good coaching staff.
Shane, final word, and we're moving on.
I think Jess and Austin hit on the club choice. The other thing I'd say, and you can look back on this, this is a Texas high school 7-on-7 problem. They get so used to playing 7-on-7, there is no club choice. You hit the driver from 25 yards out and throw it to the guy that's 6'5". You look at the high school guys that come from Texas, especially both Cade Klubnik and Ewers, upper Dallas guys, both in Austin Lake and have played for some great quarterback coaches, but both of them have the same problem as Jess said. And I think if you look back on it, it's from that.
Excellent work on Cade Klubnik. Very good. We are moving on to the next guy. Staying in state, though. Boy, state of South Carolina. 2.5 hours apart, man. Got two top quarterbacks here. If some of you were wondering why we picked these six tonight, so we won't go open floor on these last three quarterbacks. You just get one turn. We'll move on, okay? LaNorris Sellers is next. I'll get to him in just a second. I tried to pick out guys who had a lot of starts already and who there was a very good chance that they may end up in the draft after a second season of a lot of starting. So Arch Manning isn't on here tonight. We will do him next week. Nico Iamaleava is not on here tonight. We'll do him next week. Carson Beck is not on here tonight. We'll do him next week, even though he's got a million starts. We'll do those guys next week, but these are the guys that we're hitting tonight. So LaNorris Sellers, Jess has him at number 7, Peyton number 5, Ben number 3, Shane 4, Austin 5. So kind of all over the map there, but somewhere between say 3 to 7 there, probably averaging out at number 5. Height 6'3", weight 240. Career starts 12. He had 2,500 passing yards last year, combined with 674 rushing yards. So he checks in at about 3,200 total yards for last year. The TDs to interception 18 to 7, and the yards per attempt were 8.5 on the throws. Jess, you got first and only shot here on Sellers.
No pressure then. Sellers to me is of the guys that I think are going to declare next year. Uh, he's going to be like the Anthony Richardson. He's going to have, I think, the fewest starts of any of the top guys. He's kind of right now, at least heading into this year, one of the least developed. He really took off in the back half of last season. His mobility, his athleticism is incredible. I think he had like 160 rushing yards alone against Clemson, and we know Clemson's strength is its defense. So to be able to do that against that unit, which is going to be even better this year, so that's going to be a game to mark off on the calendars there. It's going to be very interesting to see. He needs to develop more as just, his mental clock. He will play very fast, especially against pressure. He's going to bail maybe a little, bail from the pocket a little earlier than maybe you like. He's got to have better anticipation on, timing with the routes and everything. But he's got all of the talent in the world, and I'm excited to see if he puts it together this year.
Good job, Jess. Austin, man, give us your take on Sellers here.
So starting off with his just ability to extend the play is tops of this class. He has extremely powerful legs, and it is very tough for these college guys to get him on the ground in the pocket. He has incredible power and ability to stay upright. Uh, that said, when he converts that into, extending the play, I don't love his accuracy on the move. He has plenty of times where he has time to set his feet and doesn't, and that's very frustrating to watch. That's one of my like sort of pet peeves, I guess. But once he sort of crosses the line and turns into a runner, he's surprisingly agile and quick. He has really good stop start for a guy who's 240 pounds. And his lateral mobility is really good. His top end speed, on the other hand, I don't think is quite there. But his ability to get yardage on the ground is not hindered by really anything on the ground. He just gets what is there plus a few extra every time. His arm is, I think, average, if I'm being honest. His mechanics, I don't love. He has a very quick release, which I do appreciate, but it's kind of awkward. It almost looks like a right-handed Tua to me. just the throwing motion itself. But his base is pretty bad in his throwing motion, which he's got such powerful legs. I think he can get a lot more out of his arm by improving his base, which he's throwing off of. And he's another one of the guys I'd love to see toy with lowering the arm slot at times and trying to throw that sort of sidearm bullet pass and things like that. I don't know that he's um, got that in the bag, but if he does, I think that would be something that would really elevate his game because he's got the really quick release to go with it. And usually, those guys who have that quick release, when they can do that, that really can elevate their game.
Shane.
So to kind of wrap it up, I agree with both Jess and Austin and kind of tee off of what they said. For him, other than Haynes King, who we'll talk about, I think he is LaNorris Sellers is high ceiling, but lowest basement as well. Like if things go right for him, and Jess mentioned like Anthony Richardson, that's when things click. You sit back and you go, I don't know how anybody stops them. But when they look terrible, they are atrocious. Austin said, I don't think he has great footwork. I think for a guy that's built as powerfully as he said, I think the lower body is a mess. I don't know if that's just because they asked him, maybe in high school he was like the quarterback, but also the fullback on some running plays. Because I don't think he sets his feet well. I don't think he positions himself to drive the ball. I think that makes his arm weaker. Like Austin said, I think he's middle range on arm strength. But I also think that for South Carolina, he's one of those ones that could get him more wins than South Carolina is ever prepared to have, other than a championship year. They're going to trust in him, and they need him to play at his max for them to be a great team.
All right, good stuff from everybody, especially on the mechanics and the footwork. I saw some of the same things. In my head, he's probably still one of the younger, less experienced guys on this group that we're talking about tonight. So I'm curious to see, after an off season of training and working with the coaching staff, if he shows up a little bit more technically precise this year. Okay, I'm gonna hit my notes real quick. We're moving on. You already mentioned it, tough runner. He is almost impossible to tackle. Goodness gracious. You can hit him high, hit him low. He can get out of it. He can break it. He can just flat out take the hits. I mean, goodness gracious. Not only that, he's got some shake and bake to him, like a running back. Like he can shuffle, and it's impressive that he can do that. But again, the top end speed is not there. So you're not generally, while he can break a 30 to 40 yard touchdown, you're not going to see him break the 50 and 60 yard TDs the way Cade Klubnik can. You're just not generally going to see that. I thought he had a strong arm, but not as strong as some of these other guys that we're talking about tonight. So to me, it still is NFL arm, but you just don't see that explosiveness to the deep areas of the field that I saw out of these other guys. It's not even close there. He does go silent sometimes, and I just want more production. There are stretches of the game where he just kind of goes silent, and lack of first downs, lack of points, and I would love to see more of that and to get him out of this. What is that? 3,200 yards of total production. I would love to see him get up in the 4,000 yard total production between both the throwing and the running. All right, that's LaNorris Sellers. Moving on. Haynes King, 6'3", 215. He's got 30 career starts. Jess has him number 9, Peyton 10, Ben and Austin have him 11. Shane's got him at 14. Last year, 2,000 passing yards, 2,100, along with almost 600 rushing yards. So total production there out of Haynes King would be around 2,800 and 14-2 touchdown to interception ratio. We'll go real quick on Haynes King. Shane, you're up first.
Okay, real quick. College quarterback, not a pro quarterback. Does great for Georgia Tech's system and offense, and I think they're happy to have him. Tons of weaknesses when you go to break down what else he can do in film.
Very good. Jess?
I don't have too much to add, although I do think in terms of his potential draft qualities here, the fact that he is going to have so many starts under his belt, that he is going to be this kind of veteran leader for I think potentially could be pretty darn good Georgia Tech team. I think that could help his draft stock, leading him to be maybe a 5th, 6th round guy. I had him number 9, a bit more off of what I think he and Georgia Tech could do in college this year as a draft prospect, I don't love him. If nothing else, just with how old he's going to be coming out. I think he's already 24. He's almost my age. So, that's not, not if maybe I still have a shot. Who knows? Just go pro, see what I can do here. These guys are old. I can claim COVID years, but yeah, in terms of the draft, I don't see much from him, but I do think he and Georgia Tech could have a pretty good year this year.
Austin.
His throwing motion just that's you just cannot have a throwing motion like that in the league. Like his whole upper half just needs to be replaced. Just replace the unit. That one went bad. His base though, fantastic. He's got a really good base in the pocket and he's very mobile. He has really high top end speed. Actually, he reminds me sort of like almost like Drake May, where you're like, he's not that fast. And then he just keeps getting faster as he keeps running. And you're like, oh, there he goes breaking off a 60-yard run. Yeah, with a really good top end speed and really strong base in terms of like avoiding pressure and sacks, but also just like very stable, keeps his feet aligned with where he wants to throw. Like that bottom half really is teach tape. The whole top half, though, is just like bad. Just like I don't know. It's just it looks awkward. It doesn't yield pretty looking throws. You see a lot of anytime he tries to put real velocity on the ball, you see him throw ducks, just dead ducks. Anytime it's got any sort of velo behind it. And yeah, like Shane said, I just don't think unless something drastic changes, he's just not gonna have success in the league.
To pull like an Austin shocking quote, he's a pitching machine with a broken wheel. One of the
Yeah.
wheels is going at 95, the other one's going 75, and it's good luck if we get it where we want it.
There's a reason he's at Georgia Tech instead of Texas A&M. All right, so I'm with everything you guys are putting out there. I think this is where we have a huge separation in terms of tonight's quarterbacks. I quote what Jess said. I think fifth, sixth round, you do look at the size there and the experience and the mobility. There is a chance he gets drafted, but not to be anybody's starter. It would be somebody's backup next year. The only way that changes is if something changes on the throwing side. He's the one quarterback out of all the people we've talked about tonight who does consistently down to down beat you with his legs. He can't just break the big one, but he consistently runs for consistent yardage, and that is something. But unless the throwing gets better, I don't see a significant NFL career here. But we'll see. He's got one more year at Georgia Tech. Last guy for the evening, John Mateer, who was at Washington State, transferred to Oklahoma. He's 6'1", the shortest of the guys according to listed measurements out of the night. He's 220, got 12 career starts. If he, again, same as Sellers, if he gets all the starts this year, he'll be up to 25, 26 starts, which is more than enough to at least get some kind of a gauge on him. 29 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He's got the highest yards per attempt out of tonight's guys at 9.1. 826 rushing yards, more than anybody else out of tonight's six-pack. And we all have him anywhere from 6 to 9, probably averaging number 8 quarterback out of this year's group. Let's give Austin first take.
I have a lot of notes on Mateer. I won't go over all of them, but I watched a ton of him when I was watching Kyle Williams, and then I've rewatched just him for this. I have a lot of opinions. This is one of my favorite things I wrote down. Looks a bit antsy, and then I later wrote, "No, seriously, someone check his pants for ants." Just like that's just how I describe him in the pocket. That's what I have under his like pocket presence. That's my note. I also came up with a comp, but it's not just like one player. It's sort of parts of different people. So I've got the instrumental music to that Fort Minor song. Remember the name? I don't know if you can hear this or not. 15% Jordan Love, 30% Johnny Manziel, 50% Christian Ponder as well, 5% Squirrel, and I just that's 100%. The song they like go more than 100%, but I stopped it at
And
100 out of
100% reason to remember John Mateer.
yes, thank you. Yeah, 15% Jordan Love. He's got that sort of like jump throw, Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. I wrote down, I bet his favorite quarterback is Aaron Rodgers because he does that like jump throw, whereas both of his feet are off the ground while he's throwing a lot. 30% Johnny Manziel because he's like actually really good on the ground. 50% Christian Ponder because that's probably the career best outcome for him would be Christian Ponder. And then 5% Squirrel because yeah, like I mentioned, the ants potentially in his pants. Um, there's more if y'all want me to keep going, but I'll stop.
Okay, the Christian Ponder part of this ancestry bothers me way more than the squirrel part, Austin. I mean, to be honest about it,
Yeah,
or the
rightfully
ants
so.
part. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I do like Mateer, but not really as an NFL guy. I do see him possibly getting drafted. I like him better than Haynes King. I like his throwing better than Haynes King. And I like his running pretty close to what Haynes King can do. Honestly, Mateer does beat you with his legs and his feet. I like that. He's got a he's got a strong arm to 20 yards, but I didn't see much deep ball out of him. And I think that's a huge problem whenever you're looking at NFL quarterbacks. It's not that he can't throw a deep ball or never throws a deep ball. I just didn't see a lot of it. And what I did see was usually to an open guy downfield. You know, if he's hitting a guy at 30, 35 yards, it's usually because the guy's just that wide open. I didn't see him throwing guys open downfield. He does seem to throw a good straight hard ball, which does help, but again, it's kind of limited. I do his favorite, my best throw that he throws is that over the shoulder throw to the left. A lot of times at the goal line, if they're at 20 yards out, he can nail that back left shoulder throw to the goal line every single time. I don't know why he's so good at that, but you know, you get out there to the deep ball. I just didn't see as much of that, and then the height thing too sometimes can come into play when you're talking about dealing with offensive lines. Okay, man, that's it. I'm gonna give you guys one more chance here to either mention the quarterback or mention your show, and then we're out. So, Austin, you start off, man.
I'm good. I think I've said my piece.
Austin is done. He said enough. He's dropping the mic because he just had so many great quotes tonight.
All those bars.
All right, Shane.
I think just to hit off what Austin talked about with Mateer, he's my favorite one to watch because I don't know what's going to happen. And in my notes, Austin put the ants. I put that this guy is a Major League Baseball closer because I see him smashing two Red Bulls together, drinking those, the horns start, and then he's coming out to close for the Mets. It's like that type of. He's going to be pumped up for as long as it takes him, and then you see his play kind of disintegrate, but he's going to be energized. He's ready to go, and the team's going to go behind him. Yeah, I mean, like I said, to watch him, he's probably my favorite to watch out of the entire group that we're breaking down over these next two shows.
Shane, it sounds like Stone Cold Steve Austin to me, so I like him better already.
He would love it. He would love that glass smashing, just like Austin said.
All right, Jess, I'm going to lead into your intro, man. So you're with In the Flat podcast. You guys have been doing a lot of work over there. And while you may not be on the next couple of episodes of In the Flat, they are continuing every week. But they are also doing a quarterback show for the upcoming college football season, more specifically, less draft, more football. So tell us about that, and then tell us about the show, too.
Yeah, we have a lot of interesting, varying opinions in regards to a lot of these quarterbacks. Like, we in the past have had some heated Drew Aller discussions, heated Arch Manning discussions. So we're kind of going by a little bit more of right now we're kind of doing some team projections, and a lot of that is kind of based around the transfer portal, recruiting classes, and of course the quarterback situation. So we're kind of touching on it lightly before a little later in the year. I think we're gonna do more of a top 10 comparison for us, you know, like my top 10 versus Jordan's top 10 versus Tony's top 10. Where do we have overlap? Who's on whose list and who's not on whose list? It's something that we're kind of a new structure that we're trying to take to, you know, in this off season where, you know, we're kind of past a lot of the big transfer portal names. Where, you know, I think for a lot of, you know, NFL and college football, the summer is just like this dead zone. So we're going to be possibly doing that for a variety of positions, not just quarterbacks. I think we're going to touch on running backs, if for no other reason than to give Tony and Jordan an excuse to talk about Jeremiah Love. So, you know, they're big Notre Dame guys. As a Rutgers and ECU guy, I don't have as much to talk about in that regard. So,
All right, that's the In the Flat podcast. It's on Apple and Spotify, of course. And side note here on Pro Football Plus, we'll be doing a lot of the same thing with some of these college football positions, but it again will be related to NFL draft kind of worthiness and less about next year and the team. Next week, though, we'll be doing Arch Manning, Nico Iamaleava, Carson Beck, Sam Levitt. We'll throw in DJ Lagway as well, just because so many people, including us, do like him, even though he will not be in the 26 NFL draft. And we'll do a handful of other guys as well, probably between 6 to 8 guys next week. We will come back at you with as well. Guys, great job. Excellent work. We did it in 1 hour flat, so well done. That's a quarterback 6-pack. Looking forward to the NFL draft for 2026. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We will be coming back here all summer with a lot of high-level content. So have a great one, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.